Right after I graduated from high school, before I started college, I had that all-important conversation with my mom. What was I going to do for my major? I was pushing for art, but she wasn't too keen on that because she claimed that art was not a steady job, that pay was inconsistent because commissions are inconsistent. So she convinced me to go after biology instead because it was a subject that I did well in high school. But over the years, I've discovered that art is a very important subject to all students, even those who aren't going to study art professionally. This is because art it develops creativity, communication skills, and critical thinking, which students can use in any subject. In the words of Kevin Martinez, a writer for the World Socialist website, public education is being decimated. In the 2008 and 2009 school year, $1.6 billion were cut from the California school budget. And this year, $4.2 billion were cut. This is in addition to $11.6 billion that have already been in place since before 2008. Unfortunately, art classes such as dance, drama, drawing and painting, and music take the brunt of these cuts. And these classes are cut before sports, math, science, and English. Now, the main reason for this is because administrators feel that students should be concentrating on necessary subjects, and that art isn't very important. It's also very hard to measure progress and to compare different art between two different students because of its nature. But on the other hand, art classes have been beneficial to students. A.C. Newman, an art teacher, discovered that after students had taken his class and actually become interested, they started to do well in their other classes and their test scores went up, but he had no idea why. But Shelley McCrae wrote, "The reason the practicing of art makes students smarter is not because they learn how to draw a house or to sculpt a pot. It's because it teaches students how to think." In art classes today, teachers will often focus on art appreciation, studying Shakespeare, studying Mozart, or studying Picasso. But a new way of teaching is for teachers to encourage their students to discover new ways of displaying their medium. For example, in my art class right now, many students use charcoal. However, our teacher is encouraging us to use graphite, Conte crayon, markers, ink, and instead of using traditional brushes and pens, to go out and find a stick or anything that we feel would be a good medium to use. Now, although this might be hard to do at first, it eventually develops into a person's individual style. And this is also true in music, where musicians will try and find new sounds in order to try and sound different. Now, A.C. Newman, in his teaching style, he was a much more controversial teacher. Instead of only focusing on art appreciation, he focused on creation from his students. And this is the entire point of art, is to express oneself. If a student spends all their time studying the masters, they don't actually become immersed in what's going on. Through exposure to the subject, the students will begin to appreciate. Now, A.C. Newman, he decided that he should no longer compare art amongst his students. Think about it. Can you compare a drawing to a song? And can you even compare a drawing to a painting? Because two people will have different ideas and styles, and it's very hard to compare. Therefore, the focus should only be on the creation and the individual student's progress. In the current high school system, students are required to take 4 years of math, 3 years of English, 3 years of science, at least 2 years of sports, and only half of a year of art. And this is coupled with another half year of computers. And many teachers claim that high school prepares students for college. But with such a rigorous schedule, everyone is basically geared towards math and science. Now, a way that this can be solved is, instead of having a set number for each class, you can take 2 mandatory years for each particular subject, math, science, English, etc. Now, this will make students much more well-rounded in all of their basic classes, but this also leaves a lot of room for extra electives, which lets students begin to choose what they actually want to pursue in their career. If they don't, they begin making these decisions in college, when it's much more costly. I hope you have realized that art classes will help develop creativity, communication skills, and critical thinking, and can be useful in all areas, instead of just creating paintings and drawings. Now, I leave you with a quote from Shelley McRae. If the true sense of artistry is lost to the masses, then the artistry of reading and writing, of mathematics and science will be lost. Thank you.
All right, Lisette, do you hear? Apparently not. Oh, yeah, you are. I didn't hear you.
I thought his whole introductory paragraph was really effective. His thesis was clear. The only thing I thought was lacking was perhaps like any source material. I don't think there was enough. But aside from that, I thought it was an effective speech.
Okay. Yeah, Zachary, I thought I like the opening also. I thought you've got a good personal story. It draws us in. It's something that most of the students, pardon me, will be able to identify with. And you give a little bit of justification at the start as to why you're talking about this particular issue. Although the World Socialist website seems like kind of a strange site to be getting that information from about the budget. Maybe some information, the same information I'm sure is available in some other places, but it seemed a little, off, that's all. I do think that you need to set up the contents more at the beginning of the speech, because it didn't really seem like it was, well, there wasn't a preview, and it was not an easy structure to pick out. That doesn't mean that it didn't fit together pretty well, because the truth is that the ideas flowed, I thought, pretty effectively. There are a lot of claims being made that I think you need some more backup information on. You do get a little bit sidetracked on a couple of issues, like the the A.C. Newman experience and what that's all about, because that's doesn't really end up being about the subject that you're discussing. It's just a side trip that's interesting. You cite Shirley McRae a couple of times. Make sure that you give us some reason why that person's opinion is useful or important, because that could be your classmate in your art class, as far as I know, and that might be a valuable opinion to have, but in evaluating it and judging whether or not the inferences that you're making are solid, I think that's a little problematic. I thought that you had some good descriptions. It could be a little bit more developed. I thought it was interesting, for instance, at the end that you mentioned that our emphasis seems to be on math and science. We're preparing people for that. And maybe that's not really the way to go for success, because let's face it, if you were going to measure America's success in math and science over the last few years, we're going the opposite direction. Everybody else is moving further ahead. And maybe the argument here is that's because we failed to pay enough attention to these other things. We've cut back those things that made people more creative or interested in those things, and instead of drilling them on the math and the science stuff, if we were preparing them to be critical thinkers and be able to apply these ideas, it would work a little better. I think that might have been an interesting take to go with on that later part of the argument. The presentation, you've never really had any problems with the presentations. You do a good job talking to the audience. Your eye contact is always solid. And the gestures are a little bit limited, but you seem animated enough for what you're talking about. And there's really good vocal variety while you're speaking, too. I like that. All right. Thank you.